just like to start, hopefully this isn't too self-indulgent, with a poem I wrote a few months back, trying to capture quite how I got myself into the situation that ended up with me being in front of you guys today. It's kind of describing a typical day in my working life, as it was. Drip, drip, drip. Do you hear that? That's your overseas account manager leading you with apologies at 10 PM in the evening. Drip, drip, drip. Do you hear that? That's your overseas team calling you up with apologies at midnight to discuss a follow-up for the meeting that just happened. Drip, drip, drip. Do you hear that? That's the sound of yet another 3 AM phone call about a production problem that's outside contractual obligations. Drip, drip, drip. Do you hear that? That's the sound of your kid or your cat waking you up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Drip, drip, drip. Do you hear that? That's the local service manager calling you at 7 AM with apologies, wanting the info on the 3 AM issue. Drip, drip, drip. Do you hear that? That's the sound of the pre-sales team wanting a technical review of their proposal at 10 AM. Drip, drip, drip. Do you hear that? That's the sound of the client security team wanting to discuss an upcoming audit at lunchtime. Drip, drip, drip. Do you hear that? That's the sound of your team's planning meeting at 3 PM. Gosh, you plan to finish writing that presentation hours before. Drip, drip, drip. Do you hear that? That's the sound of you driving home at 6 PM on a conference call, answering questions from the planning meeting earlier on. Drip, drip, drip. Do you hear that? That's the sound of the above being a typical night and day for year after year. Drip, drip, drop. Do you hear that? That's the sound of you needing crisis support from your local mental health services. To give you a bit of background on my working career, I work in the IT industry. I have done since I left university 17 years ago now. Started in a junior role, just doing phone support. I worked my way up from there. I'd always worked hard, and I'd always had a solid work ethic. It was very important to me to do a decent job. One thing my manager said to me one day when we were just having a regular catch-up, he said, "I'm surprised more people don't go off with stress." Needless to say, you wouldn't describe him as a mindful employer. It was a smallish company, but one that was very technically focused. It had no real, it focused on technical excellence rather than how they improved their workforce through training or having any consideration for the team's mental health beyond are you successfully delivering your job. I got myself into a senior role where I was working with teams across the United Kingdom and the United States. And the one thing that really, in hindsight, and I didn't recognise this at all at the time, that pushed me over the edge was a major project I was working on. That a couple of weeks before the project started, one of my colleagues on the team, the other senior guy I was running the project with, quit to take a new position. And he worked in America, and they've only got a 2-week notice period. So next thing you know, he's gone. And obviously we don't want to disappoint the customer, so none of the timescales change on delivering this project. So next thing you know, I'm picking up more of this slack. I get another junior guy to help out, but there's only so much he can do. And I end up picking up more and more of that work. When already this was a project that was quite significantly outside of my comfort zone. I ended up working ridiculously long hours and could only sleep through use of some herbal remedy or something less herbal, to the detriment of my health. The project ran over the Christmas holidays, worked straight through Christmas, through New Year, didn't take a break, went on for a good several months like this. In its own, you kind of think, well, that's one project, it happened, and then it kind of moved on. But I don't think I ever really recovered from that level of intensity over such a long duration. Because at the time, I wasn't really aware of my mental health as being a thing, really. And you think, all right, well, I've got through that project. I feel absolutely exhausted, but it's fine. Pick yourself up, crack on, get on with the next project, and keep going, and continue to take on more responsibility, and continue to take on extra work. The desire to succeed, desire to see the project succeed, for the benefit of the company, always took more precedence over an actual desire for me to be able to express my own needs. And really, it got to a point where, at that point, I felt like a wreck, but I didn't know how to do anything about it. Like, I didn't know how to express my needs as an individual within the team. I could run the team perfectly fine, but I was not running my own mental health in that team. It's kind of this point that things started to get a bit weird. A real sense that things aren't right in the world. Like, a real sense of unease and an awareness that I built a wall around myself to kind of detach myself from the world. Under the impression that if I just worked harder, put in longer hours, then somehow everything would make sense and it could just keep going. And the last thing I could do was to stop, because that would have had to mean that I would acknowledge that I had a problem. It was just easier to bunker down and crack on. And at this point, stress felt normal. It's like, right, I have this job, it's normal to feel stressed. Like, you know, it's a senior job, you should be putting in these hours. Like, the whole idea of it not being stressful wasn't even like a concept I'd considered. It's just like, this is a stressful job. And the idea that I could change how I react to that job wasn't even something I'd even considered. And the concept of the stress bucket that I would later learn about on a Workplace Leeds course, something at the time you think, I'd never come across the concept, and I think even if I had, you think, well, this is something other people need, and it's not something that directly relates to my experience. Little do I realise how wrong I would be, and it's exactly the kind of thing that I needed. I thought what I'd actually needed was a change of job, so I resigned my post there, took on a new job, but just before I was about to start the new job, I realised that actually it wasn't the job that's so much the problem, but at the time I didn't know what the problem was. I just had to stop working for a while. So I ended up taking a good few months off. I referred myself to Leeds IACT, and they referred me on to the Phoenix Wellbeing Centre in town, where I started a course of person-centred therapy, which was excellent and really kind of helped to deal with a lot of internal issues that I've been carrying for a long time, and basically repressing through working and not confronting any of my own issues. I thought things were going well. Decided I'd return to work. Money was getting a bit tight, and thought, best get back into work. Found a job, perfect job, managed a week in the workplace, and then had to leave. Could not face the work environment. And I realised quite how far I was from where I needed to be able to return into a community environment, as it were. When I rang up on the Monday to say, I can't come in, then found myself in a major crisis. I hadn't eaten for days, I hadn't slept for days. It was just, the only thing I do is walk up and down the room like this, unable to interact with anything. My kind of whole idea of reality had become totally distorted. I was only able to kind of react to external stimulus and not push my own, and not be assertive in these environments. Just find myself totally overwhelmed by everything and unable to act and kind of frozen in time. Fortunately, my stepmom persuaded me to see the GP, so I went up to see the GP. She referred me to the crisis team at the Veterans Centre, who were absolutely excellent. Rang me that evening and saw them the next day. That was such an essential experience at that point to prevent something more serious from happening. Once I saw the guys at the veteran team, at that point I thought my life was completely irreparable, that there was absolutely no way I would be able to get back from where I was then to any position of normality, whatever we call it, normality. But from that point forward was when things changed for me. I had kind of such a kind of shock to have this experience that things have to just change. You can't keep having this problem. So I've gone through various crises before, they were never that serious, but was basically limping from one to the next, and they were getting worse and worse and worse. The ladies at the Beckman Centre referred me to the intensive community services team, who were seeing me every day for a couple of weeks. And again, being able to talk to those guys, the psychiatrists, the doctors, the occupational therapists, was an absolute revelation, really. And I've never had that kind of opportunity to talk about my situation, how I'm feeling about things, all the kind of internal turmoil that had been building in me for such a long time. And that they were really helpful and encouraging, and sharing their experiences helped me kind of relate to my situation. The one mantra I came across, and this is why I have this on the board here, during this period of the darkest days, was extremely useful, called ACE. I call them the conjoined triangles of success. It's only Silicon Valley fans here. A for achieve. So every day try and achieve something, regardless of what it is. If it's get out of bed and have a shower, some days that feels like a massive achievement. And to have done that gives you such a sense of having done something. So achieve something. C for connect. Connect with somebody. Like one of your friends, either in person or online or over the phone, whatever. At least make an effort to connect with somebody every day. Because at this point here, it's feeling so incredibly low that I felt entirely isolated, that I was on my own in this entire world, and it was only through connecting that really been able to, reconnect. And E for enjoy. So do something that you enjoy doing. I binge watched a couple of series of Homeland, but something in your day that you can just enjoy doing, whatever it is. Sounds super simple, in a way, but I found this absolutely crucial to getting out of bed and doing some stuff each day. Because without this, I think no progress was the alternative. Some small progress every day has meant a lot more than getting to the that achieve, connect, enjoy. Simple, and I found it very useful. Was prescribed sertraline, thanks to the persuasion of the GP and the ICS team. Taking medication felt like a big step. I was quite resistant to it, thinking I really want to sort this out myself. If I take this medication, then it'll get in the way of me figuring out what the problems are, and it'll just make things more difficult, and it'll just mask problems. But having spoken to the OTs of the ICS team and the GP, it was quite reassuring to hear their experiences. Some of the guys on the ICS team had also taken sertraline or equivalent SSRIs, and they were saying how useful it was to give them space to work through their difficulties, but to give them breathing room to be able to do that. So it's kind of through their persuasion that I was persuaded to take the surgery, and over a few weeks that really helped. Over time, I was discharged to Leeds Community Mental Health and Workplace Leeds, which is where I met all the lovely people here. I was encouraged here to take part in their Maintaining Wellbeing course. I'm sure some of you have done that, and I know two of you have for sure. Where I met some lovely people, but the first week there, I was so nervous turning up on the first week. I had no idea what to expect. No idea what the people would be like, what the expectations of me would be like, anything really. And at the time, that made me incredibly nervous, as you might imagine. Having never really sat in a group work and talked about, feelings and what confidence is, and what assertiveness is. Been in enough work group shops where you're talking about the latest tech things, but it's just work. But to actually sit down and talk about what does confidence mean to you to do a spider diagram and all this kind of thing was a revelation, really. And we discussed a whole bunch of topics: assertiveness, confidence, labelling, and the authentic self. One of which, that's one of the topics that most resonated. Well, they all did, but the authentic self, if you're not aware of it, being trying to bring together who you are and what you do to have more of an overlap. And I think I got to the point where who I was and what I was doing was so disjoint that there was a complete, there was effectively a gap in between there that meant that I wasn't able to behave how I really wanted to, because there was no alignment. So through the idea of the authentic self is to try and bring those closer together. And something I'm still learning how to do, and I guess always will be to some extent, but at least I now know it's a thing, so that helps. So confidence and assertiveness is always something you can observe in other people. I mean, I've run teams, and I've always encouraged the people working for me in the team to improve themselves and build their confidence, become more assertive. But I never really thought about applying that to myself, because it's just like, I just never did. And as a result, I've lost a lot of resilience. I get to the point where, well, as I was saying about the big project, that was a big knockback, but then to just carry on and to just keep getting chipped away at without sufficient resilience, all just eventually just fell to pieces. So one of the things I've really been learning is how to be more resilient, how to learn techniques that keep things under control, like the stress bucket, for example. I still have the photo on my phone, because my lock screen for a while, and feeling stressed. What are the things that de-stress me? Like go and do some yoga, go for a walk, ring up a friend, whatever. But to remember to keep doing those things, because it's easy to forget. I wouldn't say things are all like rainbows and unicorns now, but I have a lot more tools to help me access these things. Spurred on with the confidence in this workshop, I've actually been attending a Spanish course at the Swarthmore College. I can recommend the Swarthmore College if anybody's interested in all kinds of different courses, but they're a very friendly bunch there. And while my Spanish speaking talents are pretty minimal, can't even remember the word for minimal, I've kind of been able to relax into that course as practicing shedding my anxiety, really, but to practice being in a group like that. And part of my crisis has been to some extent metaphysical, in terms of what you mean, all the questions like what's it all about, what is life about, why are we here, and kind of asking these questions, and with the answers being, finding that the answers really was me feeling trapped and constrained, and not really knowing how to get out of that. And I think one of the things that's really helped is I've been to a couple of introduction to Buddhism courses at the Tree Rat Buddhist temple in town, which if anybody's interested, they run throughout the year. That was the introduction to meditation, to values and ethics, and to some of the Buddhist teaching. Not sure I'm necessarily intending to become a Buddhist one day, but even that grounding in the beginning sessions was really interesting to just hear the stories and connect with the people there. On the work front, my major learning has been to approach work in a way that works for me. I think previously I've always been overrun by other people's requirements. And so if someone asked me to do it, I would do it. Too eager, to some extent too eager to please, but also just too eager to have a good job done, and to make the project want to succeed. And not, get to the situation where you're spinning a lot of plates. And you've got all these plates you're already spinning, and then somebody just comes over with another 6-piece dinner set and gives it to you, and then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. One thing that really helped is another one of the Workplace Leeds workshops, where we talked about assertiveness, and we're given a sheet of A4 with 30 phrases on it, starting "I have the right to," some of which resonated with me personally, in particular. I have the right to be responsible. I have the right to not be responsible for other people's behaviours, feelings, or actions. I have the right to not have to be perfect. I I have the right to express honesty from others, expect honesty from others. I have the right to express my values and opinions. I have the right to be successful. I made that last one sound a little better, but I've always had a tendency to downplay my achievements, brushing off compliments, etc. And whilst that's a typical British approach to life, it doesn't really help in the long run. Taking pride in my work has always been very important for my own self-worth, but to some extent, you can get in a situation where you feel that it's your job, and you've just done your job, and you don't necessarily, can sometimes, in a way, push away from feeling pride about the work that you've done. It's crazy, really. But that's how it was. But after working in the corporate world since I left uni, my current plan, or what I'm currently working on, is an alternative track and starting a new business with a friend. It's just the two of us. We're totally broke. We're going to have to borrow some money from the government. But it's something we can do for ourselves, and something for the first time really that we've had actual control over what we're doing as a business, and we can put in as much as we can, as much as we want to. So far so good, but it feels like an enlightening and growing experience. And for the first time, actually feels like doing something worthwhile. First time it feels like that for a long time. I'm just going to wrap up with some Michael Jackson lyrics. Don't worry, I'm not going to sing. But as I said, it's a tune that really resonates with me and my kind of experience. Goes, I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. That's it.